God bless the RSA. That's Dean Chancey, the singing Texan, folks. Can you hear me all right? Let me get a little feedback if you can hear me okay with this microphone. There we go. Looks like it's going out just fine. It gets confusing for me when the colors change like that because it looks like it went dead. Happy New Year, folks. It's not quite New Year in South Africa. We are up to almost the midnight hour, the witching hour here. It is after 11 p.m. in South Africa at this hour. So happy sound food. What does that mean? What does that mean? Dylan says, I hear you fine. All right, cool beans. Let's say hello to everybody, folks. I don't want anybody to feel alone at New Year's. It's New Year's Eve once again. Our first time doing this on this YouTube broadcast was back in 2020. That's right, folks. 2020, December 31st, Silvesterabend, as we say in German, named after the Saint Sylvester. Silvesterabend, December 31st, 2020, and 21, 22, and 23. This is our fourth New Year's Eve. And of course, that first one, I got spanked for that one. Showed a video of some lady that went to a hospital in the UK, and I was accused of medical misinformation by this fraudulent platform. Of course, there was no medical misinformation, just a bunch of nonsense in their brain. Let me change this microphone up a little bit here. Let me get the software up and play around with it a little bit. So the microphone, I'm going to switch it to, where's the light sync? That's what I want, light sync. Let's go, what's this breathing one? That's a little distracting. What's cycle? Yeah, let's go with cycle. We'll do that one, okay? Cycle to go through different colors there. Keep changing. All right, let me say hello to everybody in the chat. I hope you're well out there, folks. You can't see it, but I do have wreaths on around my neck. Covered up by the beard, of course. And then, of course, this silly hat on top. And I don't have any blow ticklers, or as we call them. I don't know what we call them in English in America, but I always call them blow ticklers because of Are You Being Served? The blow ticklers. Myra Page, Vilma Erasmus, who else we got here? Dylan Combrick says, as this year draws to an end, may the following year be better for all of us, and hopefully we get the changes we need in our countries. Yes, right, we all need changes. My 5 pence is back. Good to see you there. Laudine Monday is here. Wishing everyone a very happy new year. May 2024 be fabulous all year round. Yeah, no kidding. Radine says, goodbye to 2023. I'll miss you. I won't miss 2023. Other than that's another year off the calendar. 2024 will be a year of chaos and woe. Well, 2023 was a year of chaos and woe. Have you seen the southern border of the United States? Have you seen the invasion? Parking lots full of people, none of whom are citizens or permanent residents here, running around, clogging our highways, clogging our hospitals, clogging our restaurants, clogging everything. And you might say, what are you upset about? That's good for your economy. It's not good for the economy. These people, we don't know their provenance. We've apprehended a record number of people on the terror watch list at the southern border alone. It's crazy. Who else we got here? Dylan's there. John Hutchins in from Arizona. Hey, John. You've been sparse lately. Rod Lofeld is in from Bloemfontein. Who else we got there? Maybe it will be, but perhaps the chaos year. It will be chaos year. And Laudine had that traffic accident. Sorry to hear that. CyberAgs is back. Welcome to you. Chris Marie is here. Hendo. There's Hendo. DeBaram is here. And Laudine says, okay, I was telling Dylan, sternum was pulled apart. Definitely also need a knee operation. Ouch. Ouch, 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 ouch. George46 says hello. Hi, George. That's a nice photograph you got of yourself there on your avatar. Welcome, George. Hester Kotza. I think I said Hester already. And that's it. I think we said hello to everybody in the chat. I hope you guys are doing well here. We had a party for the employees of the VFW earlier, and pretty good turnout. I was a little surprised. I wasn't sure people were going to come. We had about 30 people show up, which is pretty good. Now, of course, they're invited along with their families and the officers of the post. And my senior vice commander and his wife came along, so we had half the officers there. Others are out of town, or they would have made it. And then finally, a number of employees from the kitchen staff, from the bar staff, front office. So it was good. We had pizza. I'm sorry, Rod. Yeah, Nelsprut. I'm thinking of Ron. Ron is from Bloemfontein. Sorry, Rod. Yeah, but you keep saying Lofeld, and I always think of, I guess sort of that is technically the Highfeld still too. So yeah, my apologies, Rod. My apologies. Don't mean to misplace you there from Nelsprut, the home of Umbombela Stadium, and of course the Pumas. Been guarding the homestead, says John. Okay, well, good. I hope that you're able to stop the invasion. The U.S. Customs Immigration and Border Patrol can't seem to do it. Gerard Janssen van Rensborg is just given a super chat. YouTube does not allow 31.12. Okay, all right. I didn't know they allowed 31.10. Oh, December 31st. That's what you were shooting for. Well, thank you for that, Gertz. Did you have some pineapple on yours? Huh? On my what? On my pizza? Oh, no. No, I didn't have any pineapple. I just had the pizza everyone else had. So, yeah. Yeah, but thank you for that. Rod says no problem. Yeah, thank you for your patience, Rod. So there you go. So we'll celebrate Rod's patience there. Well, folks, nobody should be alone at New Year's. And if you're here, you're not alone. We'll stick with you for the next 40 plus minutes till we get into the new year and wish everyone in South Africa, in Botswana, in Eswatini, Lesotho, Namibia, all of our friends in Southern Africa, a happy new year on this Sylvester Abend. And hopefully you and yours will have a better new year. I know many of our viewers suffered through medical problems this year. Also, a couple of people had family members in horrific accidents, including one of our viewers in a horrific accident. And so sorry to hear that. It's crazy. We just had a situation in which an Indian immigrant family, there's a super chat that just came in. Boy, that sound is up loud. I was listening to the American football game here a short while ago. Thank you for that hit. That's the 3110. It's supposed to be 3112 because you wanted December 31st. And then Leovin came up with the next one, 20240. Happy New Year. And then it should be 2023. I got you. Thank you for that hit. I appreciate that. Yep. Thank you for that. So yeah, and I'll ring those up when they come up. But it's always it's the nature of life. Unfortunately, I've had a few not health issues, but a few niggles in this here and that. Not the least which has been my hip, which has greatly limited my exercising, which is frustrating for me because if you don't exercise, you get a knock-on effect. Your health doesn't stay as good as it should, and so I'm trying to get back into exercising now. George says Chatsworth and Phoenix and Durban are going to look like a war zone with all the fireworks being fired in the sky. Really? Okay. All right. Been to Chatsworth. Been by Phoenix. George, that's going to be crazy. Hopefully homes won't burn down as a consequence of it. Hope the fire brigade is handy. Is Paulie here? Paulie, the brains behind the operation, is in the Western Cape, so he really can't help. He's busy fighting fires in Simonstown and Hout Bay, among other places. Hopefully that's all under control now. So I've seen out for my coffee teeth in January that I've been eating biltong for 3 months. I'm not sure what Hester's saying. I think she's having difficulty eating biltong. But, yeah. So there's one from Leovin. There's the 202 and 40. Thank you for that. It's this will keep it from being an entirely salty cracks December. It's been a salty cracks December on my solar panels. I'll tell you that. That's been pretty sucky, folks. And there's the other super chat. This one from the Van Rensburgs are competing here. Dueling Van Rensbergs. Ladies and gentlemen, tune in to Chris Wyatt Africa for the Dueling Van Rensbergs. You can watch it right here, the Dueling Van Rensbergs. If anyone else wants to get into the mix, you're welcome to do that. Well, let me just take a look here at my analytics for the year. And I'll give you some rundowns here of how this year has gone. Okay, well, but we're significantly behind last month, but November was a pretty good month. It just beat October. This month is behind September. The last month that was this low was August, which was a slow month. And coincidentally, I was in South Africa in August and didn't get much in the way of super chats or revenue. But thank you for that. The reason October, November so good is I had a lot of ad revenue. Ad revenue topped out the super chats, topped out the membership fees as a consequence of the ads I did, or the videos I did covering the Rugby World Cup. Unfortunately, I don't have that to draw an audience right now, so that kind of sucks. But that is life. Let me just go through my analytics for the year and tell you guys what kind of year it's been, because I can do that. That's kind of cool. So for the last 365 days, all right, in this year, we have 1.3 million views in 2023. That is 77% more than 2022. That's pretty cool. 113,000 hours watched. That's up 42% from the previous year. And we've gained 5,600 subscribers this year. So let me take a look at that. The 1.3 million views. There was a lot in early January. We had a big day in January when I was in South Africa, and I posted those videos of the gentleman's trucks being raided by thieves. And then we had, in September, we had a boost, but the real boost, that was with Nas Botha before Nas dropped off on us. And then in October, really was the big month. In October, we had a lot of big days. 33,000 views one day, 25,000 another. What's this one? 35,000 another. Come on. 36,000 another. 38,000 another one. Yeah, that was October was a big month, but we really slowed down since then. And watch time, same thing. The big months were September and October. Subscriber gains were big, a little bit in September, but mostly the subscriber gains came in November, also back in January. And yeah, so revenue-wise, it's been actually had better revenue early in the year when we had fewer viewers. That's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. But for the lifetime of this channel now, instead of 1.3 million views, which is what we had in 2023, lifetime, we now have 2.4 million. So in the previous years, so wow, that's crazy. So 2022, we had 700,000, and this year we've had 1.4 million. So that's 2.1 million. That means in 2021, we only had a few 100,000 views. Wow. Yeah, so the total is 2.4 million, approaching 2.5 million. 268,000 hours of viewed content, 13,700 subscribers. So 2,400,514 views on this channel. Of course, this channel is the successor to Chris Wyatt Africa. That one, yeah, I can't open that data up now, or Chris Wyatt. So I can't open that right now, but I'd love to take a look at that. But we've here's the good news. Of my top 10 performing videos on this channel now, every single one of them has at least 25,500 views, which is good. For a long time, the biggest view we had was just a 9,000 view video. So that happened this year. Hey, Gareth is in from Christchurch in New Zealand. Kiwi land, how's it going there? You've gotten rid of your leftist hate-wanking government there and replaced it with a conservative government. Hopefully things will improve for Kiwis. B. Bob Williams says, Happy New Year, Chris, and everyone else. By the way, folks, you can tune in again later. For South Africans, it'll be tomorrow morning. For those in Australia and New Zealand, it's already tomorrow. They're already experiencing. So in Christchurch, it's already tomorrow. I'm going to guess in Christchurch, it's about 10 o'clock in the morning. Is that right? Is that right, Gareth? About 10 o'clock in the morning, it should be in Christchurch. 10:18, I think, is the time. For those in South Africa, we are approaching midnight, just 41 and a half minutes away from midnight. And, of course, here in the United States, that doesn't occur for another 7 hours and 42 minutes. So, yep, my vote counted. It seems 10:18. There you go. Cool beans. Yeah, your vote did count this time, Gareth. That's awesome. Good to hear that you actually voted too. Fleshin says, quick, pop in and wish you all a great New Year's. Yeah, Fleshin, that's one I'm not doing. It would be a third one, but that's only because I'm going to the VFW this year, which is something I don't normally do. I don't go out for New Year's, but it's a short drive, and it's not on the highway, so, and it's a well-lit area, so I should be able to avoid any drunks and police stops. And I'm going to go there to make sure that the events go smoothly this evening. I won't be staying through midnight. I'll be coming home, and I'll be here for midnight. So we will be here again at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is coincidentally 6 a.m. South Africa time for the traditional USA Happy New Year's. And so we do this one in South Africa, then we do that one. We never do the UK one, but if the UK audience keeps growing, we might want to do a UK one because the time is different. UK is currently just 5 hours ahead of us, so it's 9:19 in the UK right now. So there you go. 4 and 5 is 9. There you go. 4 p.m. So I keep military time on the wall behind me there. So, Miss Pumba's here. Hey, Miss Pumba, how's it going? All right. Who else we miss here? Midran already sounds like a war zone. We have our animals doped up. Don't know where people get the money. Yeah, it is interesting, Leovan. Where does the money come from when people say they don't have any cash? So, George 46 already told us about Chatsworth and Phoenix. Hopefully they don't burn the towns down. All right, thank you all for the super chats. Auckland fireworks were disappointing. Oh, you want to see some incredible fireworks? Let me pull these bad boys up, folks. I ran this article earlier, but I've already closed it. But I did download a couple images, and these are just stunning. So let me see if I can't do this very quickly here. These are, whoops, that's not the one I want. That's not the one I want. I want to start with this one. Okay, here we go. And then we want to go this way. Yep, okay, 3 pictures. I got 3 pictures I can show you here. This is from Sydney, ladies and gentlemen, in Australia. They really outdid themselves this year. Sydney just had, what a fireworks display. I'll tell you, this makes me next year want to spend my New Year's Eve in Sydney, Australia. Why not? The whole place was full of foreigners. I saw almost no white or Aborigine Australians floating around. These are all people from Asia hanging out there. I mean, lots, and Arabs. When did that happen in Australia? But this is Sydney. Wow. When they celebrated their New Year's hours ago, about 10 hours ago. Well, no, not 10 hours, about 8 hours ago. So here you go. Look at that. Isn't that incredible? Look at, there's the Harbour Bridge, and there's the Sydney Opera House, world famous. Here it is again. That's incredible stuff. That what a bit of coordination to make that happen so that those fireworks are streaming off the bridge while those red ones are on top. That's just absolutely incredible stuff, folks. That had to cost a fortune. And here you go. This is an absolutely incredible one. You've got lovely illumination on the river. You see that in the harbor there? From the left-hand side, the water looks fire red. In the middle, it looks purple. And on the right, it looks kind of white. And then it fades to the natural color on the far right. That is just an absolutely incredible image of Sydney, Australia. Something. Now, that is a display, Gareth. You are correct. That was absolutely incredible. Yeah, Sydney just gets it right. Yeah, Cape Town will only be 5 minutes to Victoria and Alfred waterfront. There was going to be no fireworks, but they approved it for 5 minutes. It's absolutely comical. Absolutely comical. Why not let people celebrate the new year? Fireworks are amazing. Ever since the Chinese invented them, they have brought joy to the lives of millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions around the world. It's like the Battle of the Somme outside here, and it's not even time yet. It says flashing. Well, it sounds like a lot of it are already exploding there. So far, it's been pretty quiet here in central Pennsylvania. Usually by now, some kids are out and they've let off a few fireworks or firecrackers, but nothing yet. Yep. Radine says he's heard that some Americans go to Mexico for extra powerful fireworks. I don't know. Here in Pennsylvania, they're legal, and you typically find in supermarket parking lots like Giant, you'll see that they set up tents, particularly on the 4th of July, not so much New Year's, but the 4th of July, they set up fireworks tents. You go buy fireworks. As far as the fireworks that the cities launch, that's a very different situation. Those are controlled operations. I've seen really good ones in D.C. I've seen incredible ones in Baltimore. And then also when I was stationed at Fort Meade had its own fireworks display, which was pretty good. Miss Puma says dogs sleeping, they'll sleep through thunder and fireworks. You're lucky, okay. The dog will wet itself, says Dylan, okay. I don't know about going to Mexico for extra powerful fireworks. That may be true, but I'm just not familiar with that story. Yeah, Miss Pumbaa, Sydney definitely does do it best. That's an absolutely incredible situation. I mean, that's just gorgeous. I mean, it's a beautiful natural setting, and then you build that opera house, and you have it lit that way, and you have that bridge, and all those boats in the water, and then the light scheme. It's just incredible stuff. Absolutely incredible. Now, I've also been to Baltimore, Maryland for the fireworks. I've been as an adult one time when I was stationed at Fort Meade, and I've been a few times as a child. And it's pretty cool. You sit on Federal Hill in the Inner Harbor, and you watch the fireworks explode over the city. It's really beautiful with USS Constellation, a Revolutionary War battleship that is, frigate, not a battleship. I mean, it's a battleship, but that's a proper term. It's actually a frigate that sits in the harbor. It's one of the oldest still in service naval ships on the planet. Yep. The Constitution, the Constellation. We have the Constellation in Baltimore. And the fireworks display there traditionally has been pretty good. I don't know what it's like anymore. I haven't been down there in a while, but I did go there once as an adult, and it was incredible. But when I was a kid, it was a pretty dangerous neighborhood. This is before the renovation and the gentrification of the Inner Harbor, which has now fallen on hard times again. That's why I don't go back down there. But there was a time from the mid-1980s until 2000, or a little bit past that, that the Inner Harbor was an incredible spot to go to. And it was safe, it was clean, lovely shops, and it's fallen into crap again because Democrats run that city, and they've destroyed the golden goose. Baltimore was a center of the financial industry. They've destroyed that golden goose. Lake Mason used to be based there, along with several other mutual fund and financial services companies, all of which have been bought out or moved out of the city. It's a shame. Of course, when I was a kid, Baltimore wasn't famous for financial services. It was famous for its harbor and for McCormick spices. When I was a kid, the warehouses were right down there along Light Street, along the Inner Harbor, and there were warehouses down there. You could smell the spices as they came in. It was an incredible experience. It was also dangerous, as I said. One New Year's Eve down there, or it might have been 4th of July. I think it was New Year's Eve though. With my father walking away from it, someone got stabbed just right down the street from us, and we went the other direction. So, yep. Vilma says, we sat with a dog that ran down the street. My German Shepherd wanted to catch it. The block in the Inner Harbor was a bit dodgy of a place. When were you there, Fleshin? Again, from 1983 until about 2005, the Inner Harbor was great, and even a block away was okay. Depending which direction, if you go 1 block north of the Inner Harbor, you're still good. You go 2 blocks north, you're still good. You get 3 blocks, you start getting a little bit dodgy. Everything from the Inner Harbor going west to Camden Yards is relatively safe still to this day. You've got the convention center. You've also got Camden Yards, which comes up there. So, Miss Puma loves the microphone. The colors are so cool. Well, I'm leaving them running like this because it's New Year's Eve, so I usually leave it on the solid color. But yeah, it's pretty cool. That's my HyperX, the newer one. This is the original one here, which I use for the news broadcast every day. This one only broadcasts, it's only red. But this newer one has software that changes the lights and gives different fashions and things. It's pretty cool. But yeah, the inner harbor of Baltimore used to be a lovely place. It was a bad place for a long time. You know, it's interesting. I have German ancestors who migrated to America and came to Baltimore. Ospelmeyer is their name. Came to Baltimore in 1848 and got off the boat and moved about 100 meters and lived right there on Light Street the rest of his life. It was very small when I went there the first time and was gone near enough. But when was the time frame, Flesha? Hester says the fireworks are already going off there in Naboomsplit. Okay, let me just look up my ancestry. Let me go here real quick, ancestry.com, to look at my genealogy. Now, I wrote a book. I wonder if I have that book with me here. I wonder if I have my book. I have it somewhere. So what's going on there? I don't want to upgrade. What is this? What is this nonsense? They keep changing stuff on my damn thing. So, all right, let me just go to my tree. Okay, ever since the Brits bought Ancestry.com, it's been crap. Okay, I don't want that. I'm going to have to go from there down. Where am I going to go? Maurice Ellsworth. There we go. So I'm looking for my Ospelmeyer, so I've got to get to my maternal side because that's where that's at. So, all right, Owen, and then my father. Okay, now that I got to my father on my tree, I can jump over to my mother. There we go. A little effort here. And then for my mother, Ospelmeyer, let's go back to Ospelmeyer. And let me go back to that Ospelmeyer. And the next Ospelmeyer. And then one more, and I'm there. There we go. Friedrich Wilhelm Ospelmeyer. Born on 10 November 1831 in Lübeck, in Westfalen, Germany. Died on the 29th of September 1872 in Baltimore. He's my third great-great-grandfather. He was christened on November 27th, 17 days after he was born, in the Evangelische Kirche in Lübeck. Yep. Recorded in the 1850 census as a 19-year-old in the 10th ward of Baltimore. He's in the 1860 census. I don't have him. I do have him in the 1870 census, and then he died, so that's unfortunate. But he was a tailor for 10 years. Then he was a liquor dealer. I'm not sure how long he was a liquor dealer, but he shows up in city records multiple times. Yeah, so I wrote a book about him. Let me see if I have that somewhere. I wouldn't count on it on this drive. Let me see if I can find it. So I'll just do Ospel, because it's a. I put this somewhere online at one time, so I can't find it now. Veronica Karstel says, watching as a South African visiting my son in the Netherlands. These people were fireworks mad. Last 4 days nonstop. Crazy Dutch. Well, the Dutch are crazy. They've always been crazy. Veronica, thank you for tuning in from the Netherlands. How are things? Okay, that doesn't show up there. Let me try on another drive, and I'll look and see. Let me see if I can find it here. I've got multiple drives on this computer. I've got 4 or 5 on here, so I've got date on a bunch of them. Now, there's my grandmother's siblings. That's not helping me out there. There's images, but that is not the book that I wrote. Where is that book? It's a PDF, an Acrobat book that I wrote. I'm trying to find it. I have it on my other computer, of course, but I don't think I brought it over on this computer when I got started on it. So, come on. Searching a lot of documents on that thing. They started early with the fireworks in Bloemhof. Some of them sound like bombs. Well, that's not good. It should be lights, not lots of noise. The noise is not necessary. It's not helpful. But the lights are pretty cool. Folks, we are 30 minutes away from New Year's in South Africa, Botswana, Namibia, Mozambique, Eswatini, Lesotho, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Angola. Happy New Year. It's coming your way. All right, well, nothing shows up there, but I can show you a couple really cool pictures here. Let me show you this one here. So this is the home where my ancestral Ospelmeyer family came from. That is outside of Nettelstedt on the Ospel, which is a moor or fen. It's a Vakwerk house or half-timbered house, and it was originally a barn with the people living in the upper floors and the animals living on the ground floor. But it is all a house now. The gentleman who owned the house when I visited in 2000 was one of the few German soldiers who escaped from Stalingrad. His brother died there. He was sent out late to carry some messages out, and then the ring closed and the 91,000 survivors were shipped off to the Gulag, many of them dying along the way. Only 5,000, though, those who fought at Stalingrad who didn't get out from the 91,000 ever made it back to Germany, and most of those came back to Germany in 1955 after being slave labor for 10 years. Yeah, the horror of the Nazis continues. So this is actually my great-great-great-grandfather's home. This is where he was born in Lübeck, right there. That is a Vakwerk house as well. and it is still occupied today. It is what is known as a Denkmalschutz, which means a protected landmark, so it cannot be altered or removed. The reason this house survived, because Germany suffered many fires at this time because all the houses were wooden, and there were lots of fires in the close-in buildings where somebody's fire got out of control, burned down all the houses. This happened repeatedly in German villages. This house likely survived because there is a water trough that is located about 5 meters from where that picture is taken, and it comes down from a draw where it's filled constantly by a stream that comes down from the hill. It fills it up, and the reason that trough is there is whenever there's a fire, people would respond as a fire brigade, rush up to that trough, and they would form a bucket brigade and take buckets and then pass it from one person to another to put the fire out back in the day. And, of course, the home where my great-great-great-grandfather was born is right next to it. So it's one of the least likely places in the town to actually burn down. So that's kind of a cool history there. So it's that little alley is called the Feuerrinne, the fire run. So that's pretty cool. And the people who live there are quite proud of where they live. In fact, they're kind of cheeky. So they've actually call where they live, whoops, that's not what I wanted. They call where they live an independent country, which is kind of funny. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is their shield that represents the independent country, the independent state of Aspel. And so this is pretty cool. There you go. Freistaat Aspel. Of course, no such thing exists, but they created their own little shield and sign with this bird on it. Isn't that cool? That's where my ancestors came from, and that is in northern Germany. Next to the Wiehengebirge, which is a ridgeline located in northern Germany. Freistaat Aspel. Pretty cool, huh? Yep. So I was looking for the book, but it doesn't seem to be there either. So I've got it somewhere, though, so I don't know where, but I'll find it. It's definitely, I wonder if it's maybe, I might be able to find it because I've sent it to people by email before. Let me look at my email and see if I can do an Aspel search and see what happens. ASPEL. Okay, and I'll search, and we'll see if anything comes out of that in email. Maybe an attachment. Tree notification. That's not going to help me. Request for book. Oh, here we go. I found it because I sent it to somebody in 2012, and it's still in my email. So I'm going to download that now and show you the book, my first book that I ever wrote, folks. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So I don't want that. I want to open it with... I want to open that with Acrobat. It's opening it with my browser. So open in Acrobat Reader. There we go. Right. Okay. So in 2012, I sent this to this lady, Linda. Wow. Okay. So I have to write back to her and see if it ever gave her, if it was ever useful to her. So this is the book. This is the Aspelmeyers, Auf dem Aspel, or On the Fen. And this was when 2004 is when I wrote this. Wow. It's the first book I ever wrote. So there you go. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. So acknowledgments, introduction, forward, in search of, discovering the branch of the family. So there you go. So this is in 2004, and this is what I wrote back in 2004. I said that genealogy has become a national fascination in America since the beginning of the 1990s. Several events or developments have fueled the growth in popularity and dramatically reduced the cost of conducting research. First, and often overlooked, or at least underappreciated event, was the rapid growth of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the LDS, and their family history centers around the country and the world, for that matter. Normally housed within one of their churches and open to the general public, the family history centers are an invaluable resource for all genealogists. Many of the volunteers who staff the centers have a great deal of research experience and can generally point one in the correct direction. They also have microfilm viewers and can order any roll of microfilm stored in Utah. Given that the LDS have the world's largest collection of historical vital records, this alone makes the Family History Centers a priceless resource. Graphical, easy-to-use, PC-based software was the second tool that made genealogy much easier to pursue. No longer do we have to carry reams of papers with notes written in pencil. The easy-to-use software is very flexible and in mere seconds can organize or rearrange data that would take hours or days to do by hand. Remember, this is 2004. That was an update. I actually wrote it before that. The third and perhaps most controversial tool that changed genealogy over the past 10 years was the exponential growth and global expansion of the internet. One of the highest hurdles of family research was difficulty traveling to disparate locations to conduct research. Today, family historians can collaborate with other researchers around the globe instantaneously. Inexpensive toll calls, email, web logs, and instant messaging have made the cost of communication almost negligible. You can send your entire family history to virtually anywhere on the globe in a matter of moments for almost no cost through a standardized electronic file format, GEDCOM, via email. The ability to reach other researchers and collaborate via email has collapsed the barriers of time and space. What once took weeks to accomplish via snail mail now takes place in a matter of minutes. The net effect has been to encourage a far greater number of researchers to pursue their family histories. Wow, we just dropped from 49 to 37. What happened there? You guys bored by me reading my book? That's very depressing. That is very depressing. People disappeared because I'm reading my book? Wow, that just sucks. That sucks, buttermilk. We just dropped. Wow, that is a huge drop in just moments, folks. What happened there? What happened there? Now we're down to 33? What happened there? We were just at 47. We dropped to 33 people just like that because I started reading my book. That sucks. Chris says, mit einer Zipfelmütze. Your German's mixing with English is confusing. I always appreciate the fireworks rockets that leave golden sparks. Yeah, in the shape of a palm tree. That's pretty cool. I agree with you, Light Rain. Fells Point was still okay the last time I was there. Well, 2001. Yeah, that's around the time that I was doing these things. Veronica, I already saw that. Crazy Dutch. La Dolce Vita says, Happy New Year's. The Koreans invented the first practical rocket launcher, says Radine. Okay. It's the hat, says Brian Lawrence. And it's the hat we're chasing people like. It's New Year's. Of course people should like the hat. All right. Now, I said the ease of communication has also been a cause for concern among serious researchers. The internet also encourages casual genealogists who are not serious researchers. Anyone can publish virtually anything they choose to on the internet. This has unfortunately led to an explosion of false, undocumented research. Lazy family historians frequently compound the problem when they accept the information as gospel and even publish it on their own websites. It's not difficult to see the inherent danger of this sort of activity. In spite of the proliferation of bogus information, I tend to believe the overall impact of the internet has been positive. Serious researchers should be able to recognize undocumented and misleading or simply false data published on the World Wide Web. And I extend that statement to the news. A serious purveyor of the news should be able to distinguish between fake news and real news with a little bit of effort. The internet is a great equalizer. No longer is family research reserved for the wealthy or the retired. I was far from being retired when I wrote this. By collapsing time and distance, the internet has eliminated two of the greatest barriers and opened up the fascinating world of genealogy to a far greater audience. There you go. So, anyway. Yep. So, my forward says, often one of the most challenging discoveries for Americans of European descent is locating the origin of their ancestors. Many Americans with German ancestors mistakenly believe that they came from Bremen or Hamburg. This assumption is natural enough since those cities were frequently the port of embarkation of the vessels that brought millions of Germans to America. The birthplace of first-generation immigrants was often listed on U.S. census forms. However, more often than not, the entries merely list the state or region such as Prussia or Hesse-Darmstadt. While this is helpful, it still does not lead one to the village or town that was the birthplace of their ancestor. I said the Ospelmeyers, my ancestors, were no exception to this rule. For several years, I was at a loss as to the birthplace of my Ospelmeyer ancestors. All I knew for certain was that Friedrich Wilhelm Ospelmeyer came to Baltimore from Germany. He appears in the 1850-1860 census listed as an immigrant from Germany. His final appearance in the 1870 lists Prussia as his birthplace. Now, Prussia in 1848 was spread all over Central Europe. A lot of the territory wasn't even contiguous. It was a little patch of Prussia here, a little patch of Prussia there. So I need a little more information to determine the origin of our Ospelmeyers. While assigned to the Defense Language Institute in Monterey, California, I became friends with a colleague, Paul Horlocker, whose brother worked as a researcher at the Family History Library in Salt Lake City, Utah. I met his brother Gary in Salt Lake City on a Saturday morning during a cross-country trip in June of 2000. At the library, Gary asked me what surname I wanted to focus on since we had only a few hours of research. Ospelmeyer was my answer. I wanted to pursue my grandmother's line since we knew so little about her line of descent. That sounds like a Westphalian name to me, said Gary. We walked over to one of the dozens of bookshelves in the basement. He quickly located the book he was searching for on one of the top shelves. There were several entries in the index for Ospelmeyer. On the third try, I found the listing for my third great-great-grandfather. The book, Beiträge zur Westfälischen Familienforschung, BZWF, is a 2-volume work that lists legal and illegal immigrants from Westphalia in the 19th century. A researcher in the State Archives in Detmold culled the information from court documents. Many of these records are the results of Prussian army recruiters searching for missing recruits. The officer would interview family or neighbors to determine what had happened to someone who failed to appear to serve in the Prussian army. It seems the Prussian army went to Lübeck to find Friedrich in 1853, a full 5 years after he departed for Baltimore. His mother gave the details to the Prussian officer, who duly noted the information in his log. It was this proclivity for proficiency that allowed me to finally determine the origin of my third great-great-grandfather 147 years later. Yep. All right. So there you go. So that's how I did it. Mike is here. Welcome. Happy New Year. 7 hours. Yep. Dinner tonight. Okay. What else you got there? So Light Rain says, okay, I got it right. Light Rain. Dolce Vita. Koreans. Volkenfuss candies. Oh, that's a brand of chocolates here. I don't really care for them. Huh. All right. So taking a look at the book again. There's a picture of my grandmother. That's kind of hard to see. Maybe I can zoom in a little bit there. Does it let me zoom in? Zoom is right there. There we go. All right. There you go. That's my grandmother in 1937. So, cool beans. I said my Ospelmeyer lineage begins with my maternal grandmother, Margie Maley Ospelmeyer. She's my link to the Ospelmeyer line that arrived in America in 1848. Although my interest in family history was sparked in the 1970s when I watched Alex Haley's Roots on television, it was not until over 20 years later that I began to research my own roots. Although I knew Margie better than any of my other grandparents, that is not really saying much. I have a few memories as a small boy at her home on Mountain Road in Anne Arundel County, Maryland. I recall her dog and a cat, as well as her kindness towards my brother and my sister and myself. At that time, she was a large woman who seemed to be friendly and engaging. That was my grandmother. I'm not sure what happened to her in the ensuing years as I grew up and found myself living all over the country in different circumstances. I saw Margie only on rare occasions until she moved to Ohio to live with us in 1981, shortly before I graduated from high school. She had lost a great deal of weight and seemed to be rather surly by the time she joined us in Ohio. At that time, I was a typical teenager, more interested in my own self and getting on with my life. Although we talked, I had long since lost my interest in genealogy and never really asked her about her life growing up. In retrospect, this is something I will always regret. She began to develop Alzheimer's, although I don't recall anyone knowing what that was at the time, and her memories and personality slowly began to fade away. Now, in my 30s, when I wrote this, I can only reflect and wonder what she could have shared with me that last year in high school. I'm certain that I would have gained much better understanding of the abject poverty she experienced prior to the Depression and what life must have been like during the Depression and on the home front during the Second World War. Instead, I must try to recreate the story of her life and her German ancestors in Baltimore. I do so without the benefit of any oral history, memories, or family myths, which makes it challenging, folks. Which makes it challenging. Yep. And here's a picture of me as a little boy. There you go. 1967, that's me, with her dog. I remember that. I wasn't even 3 years old. I remember that. As a young man, I'd always heard that we had German ancestors, yet I'd never had the time or opportunity to research this for myself. I knew very little of my grandmother's life, even less of her heritage. Finally, in the spring of 1997, I bought Generations Family Tree software and began to research my German roots. I had to rely on the internet since I lived in Italy at the time. In short order, my mother and I, almost at the same time, found our cousin Jerry Guercio through his website posted on Web TV. Web TV, that's a long time ago. Jerry had already completed a great deal of family research on our common roots. His grandmother Dorothy and my grandmother Margie were sisters. We later met and shared our research. Jerry also gave us a tour of Baltimore cemeteries where ancestors were buried. At this point, I had contributed very little to the body of research on the Ospelmeyer family history. I was finally able to contribute something after that visit to the Family History Library in Salt Lake, where I met Gary Horlocker. He quickly pointed out that Ospelmeyer sounded like a surname from Westphalia, as I mentioned earlier, and we found a reference book that identified Friedrich's hometown in Germany. So I departed Salt Lake City with a destination in mind, Lübeck, in northern Germany. So I flew to Germany in July 2000 for a vacation en route to Tunisia. I took the train to Bremerhaven to pick up the car and then drove to Lübeck, visited Lutheran Church and church archives, the city archives, surrounding communities where the Ospelmeyers live today. Found numerous entries in the microfilm church records and discovered the location of my fourth great-grandfather's house. I returned to Lübeck for more research in late July and visited once again in November 2001. These visits and the research I completed were instrumental in completing the story of our Ospelmeyer ancestors. There you go. So if I'm not boring people, I'll take a pause there. So let's see what's going on. Yeah, never fear, Garrett is near. my German is improving. My German is fine. I've been mistaken for being a German on many occasions. More chocolate. Folks, we're now 14 minutes away from midnight in South Africa. The New Year's approaching, and we're going to wish 2023 a fond farewell as South Africa moves into 2024. And our hope, our sincere hope, that the angry, naughty children are removed from power and consigned to the opposition, where they'll whine incessantly and accomplish nothing. But then they've accomplished very little as a party in power. Hopefully South Africans can unite to unseat the ANC, which has destroyed that country in the course of the past 29 years, approaching 30 years. 39 people currently here and 43 likes for this New Year's, folks. Well, I hope that you're all well. So, must get this, what? Goat. What goat? Miss Pumba says amen to that. Yeah, Happy New Year, Beth Frazier. Welcome, Beth. Good to see you there. How's things going, Beth? I hope you're well. We don't see much of you these days. I hope that you're well. So, yeah, Miss Pumba, amen to that. We want to flush that year away, and hopefully 2024 will change things. Hopefully we'll see the retreat of communists and socialists here in America as well, who are destroying this country and allowing it to be rotten from our borders and inside. It's shocking, folks. It's shocking to see the quick demographic change, not because people immigrate to a place, raise children, they grow up amongst you. No, we're being flooded with people who are not Americans, who are not like us, who do not value us. When I say us, I'm talking about Christians, Jews, Muslims, Wiccans. I'm talking about black, brown, white. I'm talking about all Americans that are here. They don't share our values, and they don't have any interest in our values, and instead demand that we give, demand that we do. We are being shockingly invaded right here. I went to the supermarket earlier, and I will tell you that fully 15 to 20% of the people who are in that supermarket are not from this town and have been dumped in this local community in the past year and a half. It is shocking the rate at which we are being undermined by these communists who are destroying this country. Yep. Mike's hitting the road. Okay. Well, Beth says we're well. Blessings. Well, thank you, Beth. I'm glad to hear that you're well. Right. Let me read a little bit more of my book. Okay. Lübeck is located in northern Germany in what today is known as the state of Nordrhein-Westphalia. Westfalen in German. It's a beautiful medieval town. Wandering the narrow streets, I found myself wondering what the city was like when my ancestors lived there just 150 years ago. Now 170 years ago. Life in the 19th century must have been very different from 21st century Lübeck, which now is a beautiful little town. Lübeck today is a prosperous, beautiful little town tucked into the north side of the Wiehengebirge ridgeline in Westphalia. Poverty is rare in Lübeck, even among the immigrants, legal and illegal, who reside there today. The situation in the 19th century was much different. Poverty was widespread until the 1960s and contributed to unstable population growth. Population today, 15,853, is much larger than it was in 1818, 2,613. The current population is also stable. Two separate events changed the history of this area. The first was the transfer of Westphalia to Prussia in 1815, and the other was rapid population growth brought on by industrialization and agricultural transformation. These factors were in large part responsible for the departure of Friedrich Wilhelm Aspelmeyer in 1848 for Baltimore. However, I'm getting ahead of myself. So this is the Grosses Torfmoor. That is the swamp that sits on the edge of where the Aspelmeyers come from. That's a picture I took in July 2002. So the origins on the Aspel, am Rande des Moors. So where did the Aspelmeyers come from? That's a fair question, one that has an interesting answer. The man who arrived at the port of Baltimore in 1848 descended from an old Westphalian farming family. Aspelmeyer, literally the Myers on the Aspel, is a family surname whose origin is the ancient swamp just north of Nettelstedt in Westphalia. The Aspel itself is a small, slightly raised plain originally surrounded on three sides by the Grosses Torfmoor, a bog-filled swamp north of the Wiehengebirge ridgeline. The Wiehengebirge serves as a natural southern boundary for the North German plain, a vast lowland covering most of northern continental Europe from Holland to Poland. The Aspel has been home to dozens of generations of Aspelmeyers over the past several hundred years. Hey, Shireen, Happy New Year to you. Gina Molman says Happy New Year. And we are down to just 9 minutes before it's New Year's in South Africa, folks, as we run through the book that I wrote over 2 decades ago. The name Aspelmeyer is seldom seen outside the small region in northern Germany. The three spellings are pronounced the same way in German and have been used interchangeably in the past. In fact, the spelling was often tied to who actually wrote the name in official records. The same person's name may have appeared in 2 or 3 different spellings in church or city records. At some point prior to 1790, sons from the Aspelmeyer family moved to nearby cities, villages, and farms. This movement probably began centuries before this date. Their progeny accounts for the proliferation of the Aspelmeyer surname in Minden-Lübecker Kreis, or county, today, and all of the Aspelmeyers who live in North America as well. The Aspelmeyers entered recorded history at least as early as the Reformation, when in 1543, Hermann von Westrup, in residence at Stockhausen, issued a declaration to the Minden bishopric on his holdings. He listed free citizens with all rights, namely work, cattle, and land rights, who resided within his domain. Now that's important because a Meyer is a free tenant farmer. There were serfs at this time, but some farmers were free and not owned by the local nobility. And that's where the name Meyer comes from. Among these few free citizens were Heinrich Meyer, Hermann auf dem Suhrberg, Kurt, and Hermann auf dem Aspel. The family name appears repeatedly in official documents from the church and state over the next 400 years. Eventually, some Aspelmeyer sons moved to neighboring towns and villages, including Lübeck. Yet an unbroken line of Aspelmeyers has lived on the Aspel from their first mention in 1543 until today. Today's Aspelmeyers, like their forefathers, remain farmers. The American descendants of the Aspelmeyer line settled in Baltimore and in the Midwest, in Iowa, where the tradition of farming carried over. This is a family tradition I'm proud to have perpetuated. At some point in our lives, both my great-great-grandfather Christopher Aspelmeyer and I were farmers. Yep, so there you go. Near the bell tower. The beginning of our known Baltimore Aspelmeyer line dates from the end of the 18th century in Westphalia. We know virtually nothing of Caroline Meyer or her boyfriend Christian Dietrich Aspelmeyer. It's unclear when or how they met. What is clear that they managed to find some privacy somewhere in the town and conceive a child. Perhaps they later married, we just don't know. The birth record of the St. Andreas Lutheran Church in Lübeck tells us that Caroline Meyer gave birth to an illegitimate son named Christian Ludwig on June 17th of 1790. Got a little busy out there in the barn. While an illegitimate child is in itself not unusual at this time, the entry is nonetheless different than virtually all other illegitimate births recorded in the book. Uncharacteristically, the father is listed. This may be because they plan to marry in the near future. It is this unusual situation that allows us to begin our journey from 1790 to 2024. 6 minutes to midnight, folks, in South Africa. Little Ludwig, as he was to become known, was about to grow up in an interesting time. The mid-19th century was a period that saw rapid population growth, industrialization, and vast numbers of people emigrate from Westphalia. Lübeck was an impoverished town in the 19th century. Despite rapid industrialization throughout much of Germany, Lübeck still relied heavily on agriculture. The St. Andreas Church, which played an important role in the lives of the Aspelmeyer family, is named after one of Christ's 12 apostles. Christianity arrived in Westphalia during the Saxon Wars of Charlemagne in the 8th century. The current structure, the chapel, was constructed in the 12th century between 1160 and 1180 on the foundations of an older stone chapel. In 1350, the church was enlarged in Gothic style to celebrate and commemorate the end of the plague. Lübeck was among the earliest towns to accept the Protestant Reformation in 1525. Thereafter, Lübeck was predominantly a Lutheran community. The building was restored in 1961 and the bell tower in 2000, just before I arrived. The tower has 4 bells. The oldest was cast in 1508. Clearly, the Lutheran Church played a vital role in Ludwig's life, as nearly all the key events of his life are recorded in the records of St. Andreas. Perhaps he suffered a poor station in life due to his illegitimacy or was a victim of cruel childhood comments. We shall never know. Whatever his upbringing, the church and spiritual life were important to this young man. Ludwig grew up in a city and thus had no claim to any land or a farming life. He frequently changed jobs. By 1817, he was known as an Ackerknecht, or farmhand. One could surmise this is most likely how he met the pretty young woman he spotted one day while raking hay in the tiny farming village of Eichel, about 2 kilometers northwest of Lübeck. Ludwig must have been smitten from the moment that he saw her walking back to the house from the barn, a fair-skinned brunette with piercing, deep blue eyes that caught your attention from a great distance. Ludwig could not believe that he was still unmarried at 20. This girl was simply that she was still unmarried at 20. This girl was simply too beautiful. Friedrich Fassel saw things a bit differently. He could not wait to find a suitor and marry off his eldest daughter. While he would have preferred a landed free farmer or even someone with a profession, he grew to like the young Aspelmeyer from the city. Besides, there were no interested suitors within the Lutheran community of Blossheim. Ludwig was surprised, yet delighted, when Friedrich invited him to the house for dinner after church service Sunday afternoon. Their brief courtship began that very evening. Now, what I just told you is all a fictional account. I don't have any of this information, but I tried to make this an interesting story of my ancestors, and there's a lot of supposition and fiction involved there. But we do know they did have blue eyes, and she was a brunette. So, yeah. So there you go, folks. We are down to the last 3 minutes before midnight, and I'll pause here in a few moments. Ludwig and Louisa declared their intention to wed on the 19th and the 26th of October, 1817, in the St. Andreas Evangelical Church in Lübeck. This was a common practice at the time. A marriage ban, B-A-N-N, as it was called, gave anyone who knew of a reason why the couple should not be wed an opportunity to speak up. In Ludwig's case, there was no problem since no one stepped forward to protest the union. Perhaps this gave Herr Fassel some peace of mind. Herr Fassel is Louisa's father. By November, it had become clear that the affection between his daughter and Ludwig was not the only thing growing. So Christian Ludwig Aspelmeyer, age 27, married Sophia Louisa Charlotta Fassel, age 20, on November 15, 1817, in the St. Andreas Lutheran Church in Lübeck. Their marriage lasted 22 years and produced 7 children, one of whom, Friedrich Wilhelm Aspelmeyer, my third great-great-grandfather, emigrated to America in 1848. So there you go, folks. We'll take a break right there, and we will say Happy New Year as we're down to the final 2 minutes here, the countdown to midnight. Let's see if I can find an atomic clock to do a proper countdown. Google. And Paulie just gave us super chat. Thanks, Paulie. The last one of the year, unless people come in later on. 100 Rand says, Happy New Year. God bless the Colonel and all you all. Well, thank you. It's the brains behind the Operation Paulie. AT, atomic time. Okay, atomic time clock. Okay. So, time.gov. Let's go to that. All right, here we go. So, we have 2 minutes to go. All right. Now, this will show you the U.S. official time in the United States. There you go, folks. The official time is 4:59 and 8 seconds here on the East Coast. There are the time zones of the United States. I don't know if this allows me to look around the world. Let's see. It lets me look at South Africa. No, it just has the U.S. So there you go. This is from the National Institute of Standards and Technology, U.S. Department of Commerce, United States Naval Observatory from the Department of Defense. We are 30 seconds from midnight, folks. It is almost 10 o'clock in Universal Time in Greenwich. So I'm going to wish everyone a happy New Year's in South Africa. We are just moments away, seconds away from New Year. We have 15 seconds. I'll count down from 10 seconds, ladies and gentlemen. From 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year, South Africa and Southern Africa. Happy New Year to you all, and thank you for tuning in. Very grateful to have you here. It is now midnight in South Africa, Botswana, Namibia, Eswatini, Lesotho, Mozambique, Angola, Malawi, and Zimbabwe and Zambia. So happy New Year to everybody. Rod down there from Nelspruit, thank you so much. A happy New Year to all of you guys. It is a pleasure. I do have, let me see if I can find it very quickly here. We do have our little thing we like to do. Where is that folder? Videos to show. There we go. So I'm looking for, here you go. There you go. All right. Happy New Year. There's my fireworks display. How you like that, folks? Happy New Year. Miss Pumba just gave a super chat, and Paulie gave the first one of the New Year. Well, technically, Paulie, that's the first one of the South African New Year, but you have to come back at midnight to get the first one here in the U.S. But thank you for that. Wow, some super chats coming in here, and there are my fireworks, folks. I hope you like them. Happy New Year to everyone in South Africa. It is a distinct pleasure to share the news with you, my analysis, my life experiences, and your experiences, which you share with me. I truly cherish the times that we do meet and greets and my travel to South Africa, to the UK, and around the world. It is a distinct pleasure. I've actually been invited to go to Romania, where I did research in ethnic Germans by Janos, who goes there for Hungarian research and also meets the few Germans that are left. And he has invited me to go there in the coming year. I don't know if I'll be able to do it, but it would be nice if I could pull it off. So there's some super chats coming in. Paulie just gave one. $99.99. Thank you for that, Paulie. That'll count for December because it's on this side of the Atlantic. So thank you for that. Miss Pumba comes up with another one. And then Beth Frazier came up with a big one. Miss Pumba just donated 100 Rand. Happy and healthy 2024. Thank you, Chris and the Wyatt Army, for a great community. Well, thank you, Miss Pumba. We try to keep it a great community. Do you have a dog in your avatar? That's lovely. Gerrit Janssen van Rensburg is coming up with another super chat here. And then Beth just comes in with this monster super chat. She does that from time to time, and we're really grateful for that. Happy New Year, everyone. Thank you so much. Yeah, look at the colors there, red and green. Not as impressive as Sydney, but nonetheless, our fireworks display right here as we celebrate New Year's in South Africa. Here in the U.S., we are now just 7 hours away from our New Year's, but thank you to everyone. Boy, I've been looking at this on the screen here. That's pretty cool. When I show that video, I love that thing. Wow, I must be way behind. Yeah, I'm not live. There we go. Now we're live over here. Wow, 55 people currently here. Happy New Year's to everyone. Still got a few super chats to pop up here. Waiting for those things to pop up. So come on. What's Garrett's not scared? What is Gerrit not scared of? All the explosions and the booms are going off, says Brian. There you go. Happy New Year, says Fleshin. Yeah, Happy New Year to you, Fleshin. Hopefully your Welsh sides will perform better in rugby this year. We wish you best on that. So Gerrit Janssen van Rensburg says, Happy New Year to the Wyatt Army. And there it is right there. 202 Rand and 40 cents South African. And then Beth is coming up. She's got a super sticker here, a really cool super sticker. It looks like some kind of transformer. Thank you for that, Beth. Beth with a $50 super chat. Those are awesome. And there it is, Beth Frazier with $50. 50 smackaroos. Thank you so much for that, Beth. That is very kind of you. It's a sort of community that really gives me the desire to continue doing this, despite the challenges we face. But it is awesome. Thank you for that. Fleshing gave up on the time wasters. He gave up on the Welsh sides, the Scarlets, the Dragons, the Cardiff Blues. They're not called the Cardiff Blues anymore. I think that's their downfall. They dropped the Blues name and they're just called Cardiff Rugby now. I think that's what got them. But folks, I really, really, truly, honestly hope that everyone has a much better 2024. I'm going to try to have a better 2024. A focus for me in 2024 is my health, possibly employment, as well as maybe running for political office. Yep. The fireworks just went ballistic here, and the Rottweilers are barking at the fireworks, says Leovin. Oh, my goodness. Elmy 5 Pence says, yet another year together for the new year. Yeah, Elmy 5 Pence. Yeah, it is. Another year together. Let's see how it goes as we continue to be here despite the fairy tales that are spread. Gandalf the Blue. With the blue hat. Thank you for that, Brian. And thanks everyone who's given a super chat. I actually wasn't expecting any super chats on this stream. Wow. You guys caught me off guard. That's very generous of you. I do appreciate it. Well, let's see. That'll, after YouTube takes their cut, which is 1/3 of that, that should give me, let me just take a look here real quick and what that's going to do for the month. And it'll make it respectable, not nearly as big as last month. But then again, the ad revenue isn't there because we're not getting the views we got last month. So anyway, Garrett says, I wish I met you earlier. Well, but we have met, Garrett, and that's what matters. I wish I'd met a lot of people earlier in life. I wish I knew as much when I was 20 as I know in my 50s. I'm still in my 50s. Whoops, there goes the hat. I wish I knew as much then as I know now, and I wish that I hadn't started out life in such a deficit financially. Growing up in poverty, it would have been nice to grow up with a silver spoon. But you know what? It's those experiences that make you who you are. It's the experiences you go through. It's the way you deal with adversity. It's the way that you seek to achieve that make you who you are in life. Rather than sit back and be woe is me that I didn't grow up with a silver spoon or I didn't inherit land or get any money. Both my parents passed away. I didn't get a single cent from that. And I have no problem with that whatsoever. They owe me nothing. The fact that they got together and, I don't know, maybe they got behind the barn. Maybe they got behind the bandstand. Maybe they got in the back of a car. I don't know where they got. But they got together and they knocked boots. And as a consequence, the egg was fertilized. And here I am. And I'm grateful for that alone. That's all that I expect, although I was nurtured and raised as a child briefly, and then learn how to behave as an adult. So that's what matters. That's the most important thing. And I hope that all of you take your existence seriously and appreciate the fact that you're around. And hopefully you have a healthy, wealthy, and wise, as Ben Franklin once said, new year as we go into 2024. It's crazy, folks. When I think back when I was a small youth, a young child, and I looked as a teenager and I said, man, the year 2000, gosh, I'll be old. I'll be so old. The year 2000. I was in my mid-30s. Wow. And here we are now, 2024. Wow. 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 It just keeps on trucking by. Time passes by, folks. Last night I watched it's called After Paradise, which is with Chris Marshall, who used to be on Death in Paradise. So they made a spinoff called After Paradise, where the deputy inspector goes back to the UK with the woman he fell in love with. He moves there for her. They wind up, they're not married yet, I don't think. But anyway. So they wind up dating, and this was the Christmas special to start season 2. And in it, they had a man who, they had a case of someone broke into homes, 4 homes, and didn't take anything. He returned things. He put things in the house, which was puzzling. Turns out he was an old gentleman who's 70 years old, and he had stolen from these people those homes when he was 19. And he felt bad about his entire life, and he wanted to make things right and make peace. And the reason he wanted to make peace is because he has cancer, stage 4, and he's about to pass. And so he wanted to make things correct. And so he went and replaced the things, and the cash he stole from a jar of change from one of the people's houses, he figured out what the money would be in interest and returned that in cash. But unfortunately, except for one house, none of the people live there anymore, so he's trying to right the wrongs of the past. My point is that he didn't take life for granted once he found out he had cancer. We should not take life for granted any day. Whether we have cancer, we're healthy, we should try to live each and every day to the fullest. And if the fullest in your life is being creative, writing a piece of music, performing, playing the piano, playing the saxophone, performing sports, crochet, needlework, writing, mentoring others, teaching children, fostering children, raising children, working on a farm, producing food, writing software, improving human experience, whatever it is that you do, you should do it to the best of your ability each and every day. And for the malfeasance, the criminals, the hateful people out there that exist, and there are plenty of them, we trust that governments that we appoint, those who are governed with our consent, will pursue criminals and prosecute them and deter future crime. Of course, we know in South Africa this is a huge challenge. Here in America, it's becoming a larger challenge by the day as leftists undermine our republic and our form of democracy with their idiotic lies, their constant racism, their bigotry and hatred. It is ironic because these are the very people who need to look in the mirror when they call other people racist, simply for stating the obvious. For instance, complaining about an invasion of our southern border by people who violate our sovereignty is not racist. It's not bigotry either. It's a statement of fact. In a country that lets 700,000 to 900,000 people become naturalized each and every year, more than the rest of the world combined. A country that has millions of legal immigrants who come here and follow our laws and respect our mores and values and contribute their own unique cultural and ethnic traits to our society, whether it's cotillion by the Spanish in New Mexico, Texas, California, or it's kindergarten by German immigrants, or lutefisk by Scandinavian immigrants in the upper Midwest, although I don't know how that adds to our society. Lutefisk is quite nasty. Whatever it is that people bring and add to the kaleidoscope that is America, our uniquely American culture, we're grateful. But to the criminals who violate our sovereignty and pour across our border with their fake asylum claims, and we see the truth of what they're all about, they're escaping poverty. They're escaping poverty by undermining societal cohesion and the economic progress and welfare of this nation, dragging down our international standards so people can criticize America being low in education standards and low in healthcare measures. Well, that's in no small measure by the tens of millions of criminal alien invaders who have occupied our country and have dragged down our statistics with their illiteracy, with their poor health, and a host of other things. Crushing wages, driving down wages. The hourly wage of the American worker has gone down since Jackass Joe became president from $11 plus to just $11.04. 4 years of regressive economic progress. We've regressed under Jackass Joe's corrupt communist administration. And anyone who criticizes him is called a bigot or a racist or a homophobe or an Islamophobe. What any of those have to do with criticizing Joe Biden is beyond me. He's a pasty-faced, white as paper, Irish descent, Anglo-Saxon Protestant jackass. The only thing that someone says by criticizing Joe Biden is they tell the truth. James Moriarty is here wishing everyone a happy new year. Well, thank you for that, James. Learn from the past, work, move forward to tomorrow from lessons learned. Myra, that's a good outlook on life. George Steinberg says Happy New Year to me and all the regular folks here. Well, and also to those just passing by. Happy New Year to everyone. Thank you for being here. We do appreciate it. Everyone's wishing a Happy New Year. We are now 12 minutes into the new year in South Africa, but we're still 6 hours and 48 minutes from New Year's here on the East Coast of the United States. And of course, Hawaii gets it much later than us. So Happy New Year to all our friends in South Africa and Southern Africa and to Europe who are right behind them. It'll be midnight there shortly. RB says, what is that? Something, are you saying Leka? I think you're trying to say Leka in the chat. There we go. Let's put this thing back on. There we go. Put this right there. It doesn't want to play nice. There we go. All right, there we go. That should stay now. Yeah, he's saying Leka. RB says Leka. Well, thank you. I'm glad you said it was Leka. But folks, you and I have an opportunity in 2024 to change the script. Hungarians did it with the election of Orban. The Poles did it briefly, but now they've been taken over by leftists who are violating the rule of law on a daily basis and with no objections and running them right back down the road to communism. Argentinians have taken the bull by the horns and have rejected socialism. Brazil, I can't say the truth about what happened in Brazil because that would be a censorship blocking comment on this corrupt platform, but you can reach your own conclusions about what happened in Brazil. New Zealand has ejected its hate-wanking, socialist, fascist, communist government of Mr. Ed, Jacinda Ardern, who was too cowardly to even stand for re-election as she resigned as prime minister, knowing the handwriting on the wall that people had enough of her fascism and her dictates. The list goes on as the world rights the balance. The United States, Canada, France, Germany are all lost at the moment. But we have a chance to right this ship and to get the ballast in the right position and offload the detritus of human existence, socialist and communist, at the ballot box in 2024. Botswana, South Africa, and the United States all have elections. You have a chance to correct the arc of history. In South Africa, admittedly, your challenge is greater than ours because you have to unseat the ANC and convince opposition parties to work together, not a small task. And then you have to be patient, understanding, and I warned you this now, South Africans, and I've warned you for a long time. The removal of the cancer known as the angry, naughty children will not be sufficient to change the arc of history in South Africa. You have to understand that the bureaucracy is staffed with incompetent patronage hires who will actively undermine an incoming administration, much as the apparatchiks in the Department of State, Department of Homeland Security, the Centers for Disease Control, the Federal Bureau of Incompetence, and a host of other federal agencies actively and treasonously undermine the administration of Donald John Trump. These, make no mistake, are criminals who should have been charged and prosecuted for their crimes of negligence and their actions that undermine the sanctity and security of our republic. But they've gotten away with it. And they've been praised by a corrupt media full of leftist hate wankers. We saw earlier today in the news broadcast that self-professed and self-identified Democrats, Republicans, Independents in the journalism community, people who are full-time journalists in legacy media, just 3.4% of journalists identify as Republican. And that's not even identifying as conservative. 26% of Americans identify as members of the Republican Party, but just 3.4% of journalists. Whereas Democrats, 38% of journalists admit that they're Democrats, but we all know the vast majority of them are biased, bigoted, lazy, pig-headed, cut and paste losers, not actual journalists. Yeah, so there you have it. But the arc of history is in our hands. It's in our hands, folks. In South Africa, in America, we are on a similar path. Unfortunately, we've imported some of the dumb jackass ideas that South Africans dreamt up, like fees must fall, as in student loan, you don't have to pay it back, and systemic racism. These are not your best exports, South Africa, but we have inherited them, and we have idiots running with these stories. America, a country where until Joe Biden, black Americans have succeeded. In fact, before Barack Obama, they succeeded wildly. Their progress was greatly retarded when Barry Obama was president, but then they began surging again under Donald John Trump. Median incomes rose, family income rose, education levels rose, money in the bank rose for black Americans, hourly wages rose for black Americans, home ownership rose for black Americans, all of which is now in jeopardy under Jackass Joe. And the irony is black Americans voted for Jackass Joe and his corrupt administration of dancing fairy tales. Pete Buttigieg, Rachel Levine. Nonsense. Mainstream media is lost and has been for a long time. The world is over. Oh, the world over, excuse me. Are you going military on stand for, what's this? My 5 pence. I don't know what you're saying. Are you going military on stand for at the poll? I don't know what that means, man. Could you rephrase that, please? Thank you. Please rephrase it because I have no idea what you're trying to say. It's a little confusing for me, but thank you. I think you meant something, but it didn't come out right in the typing. That's the challenge when it comes to the text here. 42 people here. This is the usual suspects. This is our Kaiser Sose crowd. These are the people that tune in all the time. And for some of you, I know that you might not have anything else to do on New Year's. You don't want to go out or you can't go out and you're homebound. So thank you for being here. It's a pleasure to share South Africa's New Year's with our South African audience and with those around the world who joined us. Americans were in here earlier. There's still a few Americans lurking around. Thank you for that. We've had Gareth in from New Zealand who already experienced New Year's hours ago. And thank you for that. We appreciate you being here. Yeah, mainstream media has been lost for a long time. It is a really sad. By the way, are you guys getting an echo now? Because I know that people were saying there's an echo on Ronaldo. That's Ronaldo's sound system, I think. I don't think you're getting an echo from my microphone. Let me listen real quickly, see what it sounds like. I don't want this ad. I've got an ad here. I can wait 30 seconds for an ad. No, I can skip the survey. There we go. Okay. Now let's load it up and see if I can. I can wait 30 seconds for an ad. No, I can skip the survey. There we go. Okay. All right. So it sounds quite fine. Yeah. No, that's on Ronaldo's thing, folks. That's not me. It's Ronaldo. Thank you guys for sharing that with me very quickly. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, but you've noticed that. I've noticed that on Wednesdays with the Colonel, there tends to be an echo with my microphone. It's something to do with his Apple stuff. Ronaldo loves his Apple, but it's crap. The Poles are ramping up the anti-Russian rhetoric at the moment and think they could take Russia on a conventional war now. Yeah, well, that's pretty foolish. But Poland, of course, is doing that because they're part of NATO, and they think that NATO will have their back. Well, they thought France and the United Kingdom had their back in 1939, and guess what? They were very much mistaken when the Nazis invaded on September 1st, 1939. Nobody came to the rescue. Oh, am I going to stand for election? It's unclear yet on my 5 pence. I'm waiting for information from two people who are currently in office what they're going to do. Because I'm not going to run against them. I really can't run against a representative who satisfies my political desires. Otherwise, it's just me running for ego. But yeah, if that person steps aside, then I'm the right candidate to fill the boots. So that's what I'm waiting for. But I haven't got an answer yet. So waiting to hear that. Why does Kentucky send love? What's going on with Kentucky, Garrett? Are you in the States right now and not in Somerset West? Is that what you're getting at? 47 people currently here, 58 likes, and we had some nice super chat revenue flowing earlier, but it all dried up. It's all dried up. So that's all right. I've got a gold hooter and I got a silver hooter. That's the silver one. That's the gold one. And Happy New Year to all the folks around the world, particularly to those in South Africa who've tuned in tonight. We do appreciate it. Paulie says, cheers, back at it tomorrow. Back putting the fires out, Paulie. Hope that you're having success. Simonstown, Hout Bay, and all these other fires taking place down in the Western Cape with the high winds. Hopefully that's dying off now. But we did have severe weather warnings still for South Africa, so I'm not really sure where we sit on that. Hopefully that will be resolved. But anyway, folks, it's a distinct pleasure to have you all with us again tonight. Tonight at the VFW Post, we've got New Year's. We got a DJ, but the DJ is only there for 3 hours. And they're having pork and sauerkraut and then steamed shrimp. Now, they're not eating them together, but those are the two options for the dinner buffet, which is interesting because I'm like, why would you get pork and sauerkraut and steamed shrimp? And I was told that it's been successful in the past. People seem to like it for New Year's. Well, that's a new one on me. I was aware that pork and sauerkraut was a New Year's Eve meal, or that steamed shrimp was a New Year's Eve meal. So, yeah. So, my 5 pence, I don't know the answer yet. Hopefully it'll happen. So, I would like to run for office. So, we'll see what happens. Yeah, but now it's been 4 years since I've been out of the Army. It's probably time to run for office, you know. The COVID scam is finally in the rearview mirror. Kentucky sends love. Okay. All right. I know quite a few Poles, and they're itching to go. They really hate the Russians even more than the Germans. Well, yeah, that's because UK is lousy with Poles. You know, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, I promised I was going to tell you this. Not right now, but we'll probably do it tomorrow or something like that. I'll talk about all of the agricultural impacts, not all, but some of them, that were a consequence of the European Union and how it destroyed British agriculture, and how Britain is now dependent on food imports when it produced virtually all the food that it consumed just 20 years ago. This is how quickly the European Union rotted the culture. The common agricultural policy destroyed agriculture for the Brits and opened up the floodgates to apples and fruits and vegetables and produce from the rest of Europe and around the world at the expense of British producers, driving up cost and destroying jobs all over the United Kingdom. Now, one of the reasons why Brexit occurred was because of that, and because of Brussels saying this is how what size your doorknobs can be, and how your light switches have to be aligned, what kind of mains outlets you have to have. And then on top of that, of course, this common agricultural policy. And then on top of that, because of the European Union, the United Kingdom, starting in the late 1990s until about 2015, was flooded with Eastern Europeans, in particular Poles. 800,000 Polish nationals live in the United Kingdom. Not for asylum reasons, not because they're persecuted, not because they have any affinity, because they're mostly Polish Catholics, and there aren't that many Catholics in the UK. There are some, because they were persecuted when the Church of England was formed. But they come there for economic opportunity, and Brits got irritated with that, and that's why so many Brits opposed the European Union, even though the UK was never part of the Schengen zone. But because the Schengen zone existed, it made it easier for people to skirt all the way to Calais and then slip into the United Kingdom. So Brexit was about a lot more than the lies, they're just a bunch of old white racists who live in villages and won't get with the times and they hate people of color. Those are lies. Sure, there's people like that. But most people were tired of being dictated to by technocrats in Brussels. They had their fill. Courtney says, was delivering parcels until 2:30. The UPS is slowing down. I'm so excited. Cool. Good to see you there, Courtney. Welcome. Happy New Year to you. We'll be back at 11 o'clock tonight, East Coast time. Val says, best wishes to everybody. Don't mind the Polish here. They're okay. They work and buy houses. And look, Fleshin, I'm not complaining about the Poles. I'm just explaining to you what the issue was with British nationals. The Poles have been there now for 20, 30 years. But the UK has been wave after wave of immigrants, whether it was Anglo-Saxons, Anglo-Saxons, Utes. After the Romans came, then they came, the Vikings came. After the Vikings came, later we had Huguenots come. During the First World War, we had tens of thousands of Belgians who fled. In fact, if you see Agatha Christie's character, a famous character is Poirot. Poirot is a Belgian detective who lives in the United Kingdom as a consequence of the First World War. And the list goes on and on. Then we turn to post-World War II. We have the Windrush generation. But before we get to that, going back over a century, England is lousy with Irish immigrants because there was no future in Ireland. They came to England. Millions of Irish came to England. That's why you have a rugby team known as the London Irish, because there were so many Irish there. And then after the Irish, after the Second World War, you had then the Windrush generation of Caribbeans, people of color, black and mixed race Caribbeans who moved to the United Kingdom, named after the first ship that brought the first batch of immigrants. And it's telling. Those immigrants came to the UK. They were invited. They were professional, honest people who came from the Caribbean. All of them arrived on a boat wearing business suits, even if they didn't have money, and contributed British to society. Whereas today, people slip into the country and demand housing, demand payouts, demand money, and contribute virtually nothing to British society. Yep. Yep. Britain is one of the most densely populated countries in the world. Courtney says, I hope you can come to visit Utah in 2024. Me too, Courtney. If no other reason, I can make an excuse to go out to the Family History Library, even though I'm not sure if it's open. But I'm sure they have some accommodation for that. Yep. And I'll try and Skype into the live show this evening. It won't be a long call. No, I'm not doing any call-ins tonight, Courtney, but thank you for that. It's our problem. We always make room for more. Yep. There was a London Welsh as well. That's true. There was. I don't think they're around anymore, though, are they? Anyway, folks, Happy New Year to everybody. Whoops, I'm going to take this off now. I'll save it for later on. And I'll take off these lei, as they say in Hawaii, lei. Take those bad boys off. And we'll drop them down here for later on, along with my little hooters. I don't have any blow tickler here, though. I wish I had a blow tickler. You know, the thing goes, shoots out. But I'll put these horns down together, one on top of the other, and put those down here for later on. Yeah. So, do you think Europe is too far gone, though? Will deportation illegals occur? No, it won't occur. There are too many people who profit by this illegal trade. And, you know, as I said, here in America, a conservative author and thought leader was very popular and appeared on Fox News all the time, until she had the audacity to write this book. Open Borders Incorporated, Who's Funding America's Destruction, by Michelle Malkin. For those of you who don't know Michelle Malkin, she's an ethnic Filipino. There she is right there. And, of course, the name Malkin comes from the white dude she married. She is the daughter of immigrants to the United States and a conservative writer who's disappeared from the scene largely because she's been ostracized because she told the truth. Michelle Malkin is a mother, wife, blogger, conservative, syndicated columnist, and best-selling author of 6 books when she wrote this. She founded internet startups Hot Air and Twitchy. Twitchy you've probably heard of. Malcolm has received numerous awards for investigative journalism, including the Council on Governmental Ethics Laws National Award for outstanding service to the cause of governmental ethics and leadership in 1998, the Reed Irving Accuracy and Media Award for investigative journalism in 2006, the Heritage Foundation of Franklin Center for Government and Public Integrity's Breitbart Award for Excellence in Journalism in 2013, the Center for Immigration Studies Eugene Katz Award for Excellence in the Coverage of Immigration Award 2016, and the Manhattan Film Festival's Film Heals Award 2018. She lives with her family in Colorado. You can follow her at michellemalkin.com. Reggie published this book, Open Borders. And this book was published now in 2019, before the COVID scam. So, yeah. So she writes and exposes all of this fraud that takes place here. So, for instance, here, let me just find a chart. Catholic Campaign for Human Development's Amnesty Promoters. So, in 2018-2019, the Archdiocese of Boston, Essex County Community Organization got $50,000 for this. Archdiocese of Boston, Merrimack Valley Project, $60,000. The Diocese of Newark, Archdiocese of Newark, $50,000. The list goes on and on and on. All of these scam artists who have an industry set up on invading our country. Outlaw Nation map of list of sanctuary cities, counties, and states. This is 2019. This is the list she put together. And there's a map of all the sanctuary cities and states that violate U.S. immigration law by encouraging criminal alien invaders to invade America. Michelle Malkin published this. States that are violating U.S. immigration law include California, Colorado, Illinois, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New Mexico, Oregon, and Vermont. And what do they all have in common? Everyone is run by Demon Rat political party. Cities and counties in California: Alameda County, Berkeley, Contra Costa County, Los Angeles, Monterey County, Napa, Oakland, Riverside County, Sacramento County, San Bernardino, San Diego County, San Francisco County, San Mateo, Santa Ana, Santa Clara County, Santa Cruz County, Sonoma County, Watsonville. No wonder America is being invaded when all these public officials fail to do their job and arrest, detain, deport criminal alien invaders. Colorado, Connecticut, Florida, Georgia, Iowa, Illinois, Kansas, Louisiana, Massachusetts, Maryland, Michigan, Minnesota, Nebraska, New Mexico, Nevada, New York, Pennsylvania. The following counties are sanctuary counties in this corrupt state: Bradford County, Bucks County, Butler County, Chester County, Clarion County, Delaware County, Erie County, Franklin County, Lehigh County, Lycoming County, Montgomery County, Montour County, Perry County, Philadelphia, Pike County, and Westmoreland County. All criminal facilitators. All criminal facilitators. Yep, and the list goes on and on. refugee resettlement sites across America. Here's a whole map of that. It's crazy. This is crazy. She wrote this book in 2019, exposing it. And since 2019, you will have noticed that Michelle Malkin has largely disappeared from the public sphere. She's still very active, but she's largely disappeared from the public sphere. And it's a disgrace. She was a regular contributor to Fox News. The corrupt, captured Fox News that it is now no longer wants Michelle Malkin on their platform. Gryffindor. It seems that you're ignorant that the rice or cotton folk reside. What are you talking about, Garrett? Michelle Malkin wrote a book called The Case for Internment. Internment of who? Oh, immigrants? Well, there's a case for internment. Look at this criminal alien invader who just murdered a 16-year-old girl in Texas. He stalked her, broke into her home, stabbed her, and murdered her. Courtney McBride with a super chat. Thank you, Courtney. That bumps it up a little bit. Thank you for the super chat. Do appreciate that. Hey, the postal workers are contributing to the program. Thank you for that. So Courtney has not gone postal. That's unfortunately a sad phrase that was attributed to a number of disgruntled postal workers who would have a penchant for going to the postal sorting centers and shooting their colleagues back in the day. Fleshman says, coming back, they're in my son's league now. National 5, I believe. What did I miss there? Family History Library is open while Temple Square is being renovated. There you go. So, Courtney, there's a good excuse for me to come out there and do some genealogical research when I come out to cover the Utah Warriors. It'd be nice to come to Utah. It's been a long time, but I do need to get out there this year. I did say I wanted to come last year, and I kind of promised I'd try to come last year. She wants Muslims put in concentration camps. Yeah, I find that hard to believe, Courtney McBride. I find it very hard to believe that she wants Muslims put in a concentration camp. That one I find hard to believe. That's not a conservative trait. That's you'd have to show me a quote. I'd have to see that. Let me look for that book. And Myra's taking off. Let me take a look at that very quickly here. So we'll go to Amazon and see if I can find that book, The Case for Internment. Okay, The Case for Internment. Case for Internment. Michelle Malkin, In Defense of Internment, The Case for Racial Profiling in World War II and the War on Terror. She wrote this in her latest investigative tour de force. New York Times bestselling author Michelle Malkin sets historical record straight and debunks radical ethnic alarmists who distort history to undermine common sense, national security profiling, and the need for this myth-shattering book is vital. President Bush's opponents have attacked every homeland defense policy as tantamount to being racist and unjustified. World War II internment. Bush's own transportation secretary, Norm Mineta, continues to milk his childhood experience at a relocation camp as an excuse to ban profiling at airports. Misguided guilt about the past continues to hamper our ability to prevent future terrorist attacks. In Defense of Internment shows the detention of enemy aliens, the mass evacuation relocation of ethnic Japanese to the West Coast were not the result of irrational hatred or conspiratorial theories. And thank you for that super chat. Courtney, she wants Muslims in concentration camps. Malkin also tells the truth about who reside in enemy alien internment camps. Nearly half were of European ancestry. Yeah, that's a story that's often covered up, the number of German Americans who were interned in camps. What the West Coast relocation centers are really like, and why the $1.65 billion federal reparations law for Japanese internees evacuees was a bipartisan disaster. How both Japanese American, Arab, and Muslim Americans leaders have united to undermine America's safety. All right, well, I don't see where it says. Now, that's a summary, so I'd have to read the book. It's a Kindle hardcover. They do have it in hardcover still, $16. I might even have this book and have never read it. I'd have to look and see before I buy this. Let me just put it to my cart. Only one left in stock. Must be popular, or it's just so far out of print that it's not there. Yeah, Michelle Malkin. Yep. Is this different how the EU and von der Leyen pushing to take over Germany? What are you talking about, Garrett? What is von der Leyen trying to do now? I don't like Ursula von der Leyen at all. So what happens when these immigrants just blend in and become nationals? The future doesn't look good. It makes me wonder if I should bring little lily white kids in this world. Well, R1, it depends how you look at things. We successfully received, integrated, and adopted millions of Christian Arabs from the Middle East in the early part of the 20th century. For instance, one of the most famous race car drivers in America, his name is Bobby Rahal. Bobby Rahal. And I grew up not knowing he was Arab, not caring he was Lebanese. But his name is Rahal, which is an Arabic name, Bobby Rahal. He's one of the most famous race car drivers around. I went to college with a guy who's Lebanese, and it never struck me as something I paid attention to, named Sam Haddad. Yeah. No, people who integrate into society, become part of it, and have skin in the game are welcome. Those who create little communities to exclude themselves from participating in society are not welcome. You're not welcome here. For instance, the Amish are a secular, not a secular, but not a secular, not a secluded. What's the word I'm looking for here? They are an isolated community, but they respect American laws. They're Christians. They could just easily be Jews or Muslims, doesn't matter. They contribute to our society. They pay taxes. They vote. And they're part of America. They're part of the fabric of America. But they don't drive cars. They don't use electricity. They don't use cell phones, whereas the Mennonites do. And that's why the Amish exist, because the Mennonites were too liberal, so they broke off and supported their own creation, which became the Amish. So that's okay. That's fine. They've contributed to society. But the people who come here, and like these groups of Palestinians who are pro-Hamas, demanding that they're being mistreated because they're being allowed to demonstrate, and people are hating on them. And like this idiot who runs this pro-Arab group, it said that Arabs are being getting racism. What racism? What? The U.S. government classifies Arabs as white. What are you talking about? Vilma says good night. Yeah, it's getting late there in South Africa. We're going to wrap up here for too long. What time is it? Oh, 5:30. It means it's 12:30 there. Yeah, we should wrap up here then very soon. Yeah. All right. Guess everyone's asleep, says Matthew. What do you mean everyone's asleep? You're awake. Fleshton says Happy New Year. You have to join your wife and family, get ready. Okay. Yep. Courtney's not a fan of multiculturalism, but I don't share Malcolm's views on how to deal with it. Well, Courtney, I'll have to profess ignorance. I've not read that book, and so I've never seen those comments from Michelle Malkin. I've seen her when she was on TV all the time, and I've read many things she's written, op-ed pieces, and they all seem to be on target. If she said that, I'd like to see what the context was and make sure it wasn't taken out of context. But thank you for sharing that, and I'll try to take a closer look at it. But ever since she wrote this book, she's been PNG'd by the mainstream media because she exposed corporations and politicians who are flooding our borders with immigrants for cheap labor, taking advantage of these people. Yep. And undermining our labor and our societal norms here. And that's what she did. Anyway, well, on that exciting news, I'm saying goodnight. So Vilma leaving, other folks leaving. Let's go ahead and wrap it up here. Wow, we've got almost 100 smackaroos on the Super Chat Roto for tonight. Thank you for that. That's very kind. And we have one more broadcast. Rachel Maddow is based, just like AOC, Matthew Dixon. You just want to sleep with AOC. Come on, Matthew, be honest. You just want to knock boots with her. That's what it's all about. Happy New Year, everybody. And we'll be back tonight, 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, for ringing in New Year's here on the East Coast. So South Africans, if you're up early, you can join us. You can join us. And thanks, everybody. One final chance to make that Super Chat of 2023. Your next one will be in 2024. Now, Paulie's taking credit for the first one of 2024, and technically, he got it. South Africa's 2024, but not when I get paid. That money will appear in my December check, not my January check. Anyway, thanks, everybody. Happy New Year to you all. Be safe out there, and congratulations for getting through another year on the Big Blue Marble. It isn't easy. Our existence is challenged by bacteria, viruses, parasites. Yes, I'm talking about politicians. God bless and Happy New Year, everyone. Take care of yourselves, and we'll catch you. Those teeth are scary. What teeth are scary? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Cheers, everybody. My teeth are nice. Very nice. Cheers, and we'll see you later on tonight. Take care. And here's the fireworks as we wrap it up. Wishing everyone a safe and lovely 2024. God bless, and good night for now. We'll see the rest of you in about 5 hours. Is that right? 5 hours and 20 minutes. Good night, everybody.